Welcome, everyone, to our latest episode of Rebecca and Rebecca. I'm Rebecca Reed, coming to you from Indiana, and this is Rebecca Yager from the lovely Dallas, Texas. How are things in Dallas on this fine September day?
It's still hot, but we look forward to the cooler weather soon.
Right. Well, today we're going to be reviewing a book by our very first male author, which, like I said before, we've talked about this. It's not like we don't read male authors. We just haven't actually had one on our show, and so this is fun. And this is a different type of story as well for us, which we're going to talk about a little bit more. So, Celebrity Pastor is the name of the book. Creston Mapes is the author, and Rebecca's going to read the back cover copy so we can learn a little more about what's going on here.
This is Celebrity Pastor. His heart was right until it wasn't. Pastor Neil Gentry embarked on his ministry with genuine intentions, unwavering passion, and undeniable charisma. He had a gift for drawing people in and teaching profound truths that resonated deeply with the masses. As his influence grew, so did his fame. As he grew, Vine and Branches Church is the fastest growing church in the world with campuses everywhere. And soon, Pastor Gentry and his wife, Becky, resembled royalty, enjoying fame and power. Beneath the glitz and glamour, however, whispers of misconduct begin to surface. And there's accusations ranging from cover-up and manipulation to corruption and sexual harassment that cast a shadow over the once glowing reputation of Vine and Branches. So could the rumors of emotional manipulation and abuse of power within the church's inner circle possibly be true?
That's what we have
There's
to read
more.
the
It's a long
story
back cover
for, right?
copy. Tension
It's a
on every page.
yeah. All right. So this was quite different. It's a thrill. It's like he calls it a thriller,
Also a
yes.
thriller.
Suspense. Um, but it's not romance at all, which we have done books before that didn't have a romance thread. But this is about married couples, and so there's children. There are they're a little bit older than maybe some of, well, not older, I guess, but they're married already. We're not seeing the romance part of it. This is what happens to couples who meet in a church setting and become close, and then something happens, and it's really a study of how one person's choices affect other people.
Because the story kind of focuses on the two couples. We think about it, and it's Pastor Neil Gentry and his wife Becky, and then Darren and Nicole McHugh, and they become good friends. Their children are best friends, and then as the stories of sexual harassment against Pastor Neil Gentry come, it really divides and splits the couples up. Again, no spoilers here. So
Well,
eventually,
because
that's how.
Nicole is one of the ones that she he supposedly, the alleged harassment came about. So that's where we have the disconnect, right, between the two couples. Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
It's a powerful church, a powerful organization. The book starts out interesting. I guess I got to start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Then your traditional book, and us as writers, we're used to, you have the opening, you have the inciting incident, and you dive into the story. And this one starts differently. So it was really unique. Um, and
Excuse me.
I didn't dislike it at all. It just took a while to get used to,
Yeah.
because it starts with interviews, and I think we can share that. Um,
Hmm.
as the story is coming out, as he's drawing out the story of what's happened to this church and the pastor and how power is corrupting him. So
Hmm.
it's
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like nonfiction news interviews of people who are like psychologists, or I don't remember what all of
yeah.
the titles they were, but they're just basically talking about how something of this magnitude could happen in the setting that it happened in. And it really gives you a lot of background as to maybe the mindset of Neil, the pastor, and what he was thinking, and what kinds of disconnects happened to allow his actions to get so out of control before they were noticed. I think that was the big thing about the interviews, was like, how could something like this be happening in such a visible to such a visible person in such a visible position with no one knowing about it? And that was the big thing. It was a huge when the story broke, no one had any suspicions really outside of this inner circle of
Hmm.
the church.
Hmm. Well, it's the story, power and fame, and as he's grown with reputation, then he gets a circle around him that protects him too, and so he
Yeah.
can move freely in a sense.
Yeah, he becomes autonomous, and I think that's the biggest problem is he goes from being, a guide to becoming like a king or a emperor in his own domain,
Mm,
and
yeah,
that insulated
there's your word. There's
the
your
in
word.
yeah, that's what they call it, like an insular culture
Hmm. Hmm.
where they have this inner circle who are all yes men, handpicked
Hmm.
to just agree blindly to whatever. You know what this reminds me of? I just the Emperor's New Clothes, that story,
Hmm.
because that was the problem, right? The Emperor had all these yes men, and they just agreed to whatever they thought he wanted to hear, and that's how he ended up parading through the streets naked, right, in the
Right.
story of the Emperor's New Clothes. And that's really kind of the idea of this, how Neil Gentry, the pastor, um, was able to do the things that he was accused of doing. And
Right. And it was interesting to me as you get, like, we had Neil's point of view in the story and how he justified to himself
mhm,
all these actions that he'd taken, and his rise to fame and power and riches, the bigger and better house and the lifestyle, and everything was justified, that you don't
yes.
almost realize how lost you are, you know?
Mhm, and he justified it to his wife, and she bought into it
Yeah.
also, and also all of the people who are on this council bought into this idea too, and part of it, and the biggest justification was, well, we're still adding people to the church. More people are
Yeah.
coming, more people are being saved, more people are know the Lord, and that was their, actual justification for almost everything.
Hmm. We're
And
still doing
that
good, you
that
know?
if God didn't like what was happening, he would put a stop to it. And I think that's the lie that they were operating
Mhm.
on,
Mhm.
is that just God doesn't put a stop to everything bad. We see that in life all the time, but we don't connect it when it's so personal, so close to us. And human beings are uniquely able to justify everything we want to justify. And it really comes out in this story how easy it is to slide into that mentality. And it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
And these kinds of things never do. But it's really an interesting psychological overview of how something like this could happen. And I think that's what the author was going for. It'd be interesting to talk to him about the purpose that he had for this story when he wrote it, and
Yeah.
why, what caused him to write it and things. But um, it was fascinating,
Yeah.
honestly. It took a minute,
It
like you
did.
said, because the beginning was different, and the beginning started in a completely different way. But once the story got rolling, all of those familiar beats were there. It
Oh,
was just
yeah.
the beginning that was different. And I think it's just the nature of how the story is. And you had to have that background in order to, like, kind of, because you got Neil and his justifications, but you needed the other side to, like, balance that out
Mhm.
before the story got going. And I think that, really helped us
Yeah.
to kind of dig in and be like, well, yeah, but wait a minute and kind of look through and see what was really going on.
Now, you listened to the story, right? You did
I
your
did.
normal audio and stuff. So was that really, because I mean, I was reading it and it took, again, it took a beat. So was it any, how can you say any more confusing? Because you don't know what was in my brain as I was reading it, but listening to it must have been.
It was a challenge, and I don't know that I would recommend listening to this book. I think it would be better to read it. Um, and part of that is a personal preference, and I think not that I think the narrator did a bad job. I think the narrator actually did a fine job, and I wrote his name down. Drew Bott was the narrator, and he did a fine job as far as with reading what was there and getting the voices and all that was fine. It wasn't that I had a problem with the narrator per se. I had a problem with listening to it because the style of the book doesn't lend itself to listening. And what I mean by that is um, that Creston, the way he writes is just not very, it's not super lyrical. It's not a musical sounding
Mhm.
cadence to his writing. And that's the kind of book that translates best to to audio. And so this book just doesn't really translate. It's and I think the nonfiction pieces at the beginning, those sounded authentic to me when I listened to them because
Mhm.
they were nonfiction. And I feel like the whole book to me had that nonfiction feel to it. Now there were fiction beats and all that, but, like, the style of the writing, it was short, choppy sentences, um, the the rhythms didn't change a lot, and it kind of had a it didn't really the POV didn't really draw you in. It was a consistent POV, and all that was correct, and I didn't have any problems with that, but
Right.
it just wasn't super like, we weren't really deep into the characters' heads. It was still almost like a camera view or a close camera
Mhm.
view maybe, which is fine, and that was this what do a lot of people still write use that style, and that's fine, but it doesn't lend itself quite as much to listening, and I think that was the issue I had with it.
Well, this story, it is almost like we were watching this whole drama play
Mhm,
out of the, the accusations against the church, against the pastor and the protection squad, which is the elders and his executive assistant and things like that, but how things kept spiraling more and more out of control and you're
mhm.
watching this. And so that's why
Also,
it was different, but it was still fascinating to.
yeah, oh yeah, it was totally fascinating. The study of how this he 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 really gets you. I mean, and in that respect, you are deep into the story. You're
Mhm.
just not deep
Yeah,
into each character's
yeah,
head, in my opinion. But like I didn't dislike it. It
yeah,
just it was fascinating. And it was almost like and you know how sensationalized these kinds of stories
right.
get when they're reported on TV, and it felt kinda like that. You were watching it piece by piece unfold,
Yeah,
but you actually had the characters' thoughts too. So
yeah.
it was like you were behind the scenes, like a
Well, there you go.
fly on the
Yeah.
wall kind of thing,
We
you
are.
know?
We were the flies on the wall. Because
Yeah.
you said it well. We are deep in the story.
Mhm,
Sometimes we get involved and we're deep into the characters or whatever, but we were deep into the story and watching all the things with the characters. And again, we did have different character points of view, but
mhm.
it was just unique for us for the story. And again, we've read like last month, we read a rom-com with Karen Beery and Finally Forever, and it was a sweet romance. And then we come to this serious kind of dramatic book, kind of
Yeah,
suspenseful, toward,
yeah.
as things started to implode
Yeah, there
and build
was
up.
the spiraling was
There, the
got
word,
pretty intense,
yeah,
and what Pastor Neil was willing to justify
yeah.
changed considerably as he got deeper and deeper into this lie, is the
Mhm.
best way I can put it,
Yeah.
especially in writer terms, right? His lie just grew and grew and grew, and, I mean, anybody who's ever gotten dragged off of the path in whatever way is gonna relate to that because we are so easily, convinced, I think,
Mhm.
of our own righteousness.
You're good. You ought to be a writer. Yeah, that's good.
Well, maybe.
But no, it's just, yeah, I can't wait to talk to Creston about this later on this month because it was just a very unique for us, very unique book. I think it's worth picking up.
Oh,
The
yeah.
drama is intense in a good way. Again, it's not.
It's not like, um, throw it against the wall gross or anything. I mean, it's like,
No, and it's not,
it's well written, but you get that the tension is that thread of tension, the way it pulls through there is well done. He did a great job of, like, pulling that, thread and
yeah.
keeping you like, "Oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? Oh my gosh, is oh no," that kind of thing.
No,
So
it was really, yeah.
yeah. If you're ready for something that's not light and fluffy, you wanna dig into something that is
Mhm.
maybe interesting to you or that you've, like, wondered, "How could that happen?" This is the book for you. This will do it for you. And or if you're, I don't know, like, you can you only can read so many really nice little stories, right? You have to get occasionally we dig into something that has a little more adventure, a little more suspense, a little more, those thrillers have a place, right? And
Right.
that's what this will definitely do that for you.
Yeah,
I
this
think
is.
you'll find it uniquely intriguing.
Ooh, oh, there it is. This is a uniquely intriguing story. It is drama filled. There is suspense because what's going to happen next? How are they going to get out of this? And then the psychological part.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a thought.
And who and who is going to come out of this looking good or changed as a character? Like, what changes it? Because they start out, all of them, kind of in a deep quandary, and
Mhm.
a lot of them are struggling, really with, "Who am I, and how have I become this?"
That's
All
the
of them.
psychological
Even
part. How you get.
Yeah, even Darren and Nicole, because
Yeah.
their marriage is really
Oh.
they're like on the verge of divorce here.
Mhm.
And so there's a whole bunch of characters in there that they're all messed up. And you're like, which ones are going to come out of this
Mhm.
changed for the better and which are not? Because there's a danger of that in every single case, I feel
Mhm.
like.
Oh yeah, no, this is one to dig into. And really, that's where Creston did a good job with the characters. Although we felt like we were observing the story, it's like the ramifications of each part of this story as this um, empire is crumbling. This church is crumbling. The leader is crumbling, but how the ramifications on everyone in the story. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, he did a good job of thinking through, I think, all the motivations,
Hmm.
and how this choice affected each
Yes.
character, and he really, illustrated that well in their actions and their dialogue and what they chose to do next.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah,
Yeah.
exceptionally well done there.
Yeah, so it's good. As I said, it's different, it's unique for us, but man, it's worth digging into all of that because I ended up really enjoying the book.
It was fun, actually.
Yeah.
You kinda have to get through the beginning part a little bit, especially if you're not, like, into some of that stuff quite, is not your interest, like that psychological stuff, but you'll be glad for it later,
Yes.
and
Once
once
you,
the story gets rolling, it doesn't let up. You
yeah,
just zoom right through the rest of it,
it,
so
it it rolls. So it is a quick read too for all the
mhm.
drama and everything that's going
Yeah.
on and the deep digging he's doing. It's a good read. It could be ripped from the headlines today, unfortunately.
So,
But it really could. So it's yeah, so intriguing. So I don't know. I think worth picking up. Where you need a
yeah.
change,
I
do
think
it.
also it's a good, like, I don't know how to put this, like a societal, like, wake up
Comment.
call
Yeah.
maybe? I don't know.
Commentary, wake up call is
Because
good.
any organization that has a structure similar to this could have this problem.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to recognize the signs of it early is the key. And these people refused to do that. And that's why it got so that's why it spiraled the way it did. But if an organization was starting to have this issue and you knew about it ahead of time, like what kinds of things to look for, you could definitely step in before it became damaging and salvage the whole situation. So in that regard, it's almost like a one of those like warnings on
Mm.
things that are, like bad for you, like, hey, watch out because this could happen, right? And that's, that and you're absolutely right. This kind of thing does happen and it is going on all the time. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't realize the causes. So this book will enlighten you.
No, it is. How quickly the slope can be slippery down, and you just don't even realize how
Yeah,
you're slipping down. So it's a good commentary, good lessons in there, but good drama, good suspense.
a good story. Yeah,
Yeah, good
yeah.
story, good story. So yeah, we get deep in the story, and would you say it's uniquely I forgot what your phrase, but it's a unique story, but very very
Intriguing, uniquely intriguing. That was
uniquely
that
intriguing.
was
I like that, but it is so worth the read. I look forward to talking to Creston because he's written a lot of books. He's a multi-published author, likes to write suspense. And so I think it'd be fun to pick up some of his other books. But I have a feeling this one is slightly different than anything
it.
he's previously done on that. So anyway, the book is Celebrity Pastor. I think we can recommend it. It is different, but dig into it because I think it's worth the
Mhm.
read and it's a quick read. So
And make sure you check out our YouTube channels, and if you like video, we have that on Spotify now as well. There's all kinds of places that you can find us, and you can always find us on rebeccaandrebecca.com with all the information on upcoming things. Check us out on our Instagram, follow us there, like and subscribe so that you don't miss the next episode.
there you go. Next episode is the author Creston Mapes. So we look forward to seeing you then. Thanks for joining
Bye.
us.